Hello and welcome to another brand new review, this time of another TV series, but set in the Doctor Who universe. Yes, I've decided to start doing Torchwood reviews as I'm slowly wrapping up my Doctor Who series review, because as you know, early on this month, my season 8 review dropped. That means there's only two more Doctor Who series reviews to do, and then I'm fully caught up because at the start of last year, I already did my series 11 to 13 review. So, yeah, decided may as well do the Torchwood reviews. I don't know if I'm going to do the Sarah Jane Adventures reviews because I only have season 1 and I would need to track down the other seasons, which starts to get expensive as you go because season 5, the final season, is really expensive to get both new and used. So anyway, yes, Torchwood. I was familiar with this show um for I think it's because my mother had told me about it. Now obviously I knew with Torchwood being shown up in the end of season 4, but prior to that I hadn't seen a lot of it. I remember one time going up to visit my dad whilst my mother went and done her shopping up in Enniskillen, up in the north of Ireland, and I came back and she had Series 1 Volume 5 on DVD that she initially bought for herself, but because I spotted it, she ended up giving it to me essentially. So I watched the first 5 episodes a lot, and then after that, I'd obviously seen, you know, a handful of episodes of season 1, a handful more of season 2, and there's a particular episode in season 2 that scarred me, and we'll get to that when next month when I do my season 2 watch through, and then I hadn't seen I seen a scene from Children of Earth, um, but obviously I didn't see all of it until last year when I watched through it, and then with Miracle Day, I'd seen maybe 1 or 2 episodes and wasn't allowed to finish it. Um, and so until again last year when I watched through Miracle Day for the first time. So yeah, then early on this year, I finally rewatched season 1, but it was also technically a first watch through because there's a lot of episodes in season 1 that are first time watches for me. So yeah, with that whole 3 minute ramble out now, let's start with season 1, episode 1 of Torchwood. Everything changes, and the reason why took me so long to rewatch or watch through season 1 of Torchwood is this episode. It's not because it's a bad episode. It's a good introduction. It's a fantastic introduction to what essentially becomes the Torchwood team, reintroducing us to Jack. Because, this episode came out, this Torchwood season 1 came out um, before season 3 of Doctor Who. So this was before his main return into the main Doctor Who universe. Um, and yeah, so fun fact actually about this episode is that a couple of days or a week or two before this episode originally aired, you could go see it in cinema. As well as this season of Torchwood came out in 2006/2007, but in universe it takes place in 2007/2008, because of the whole time skip that happened in season 1 of Doctor Who. But yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic introduction to uh, the recurring characters, Yonto, Gwen, Owen, Toshiko, and a fantastic reintroduction to Captain Jack. And like I said, it's a really good episode. It's just I've seen it so many times that it's a drag for me to rewatch it. But I thoroughly enjoy it, obviously, because it's a really good introduction. The next episode, day 1. I actually like this episode. Upon rewatch, I was thinking, man, this is a really good episode. This episode was written by Chris Chibnall, and it's basically about a sex addict, uh, alien gaseous thing that takes the body of a teenage girl and forces her to have a lot of unprotected sex. And it's basically, trying to, the early episodes of Torchwood, before it really found its footing, is trying to differentiate itself from Doctor Who. Doctor Who's a kid show. Torchwood is more for adults. We see a lot more blood and gore and everything changes. And then, of course, this episode is nothing but sex. Um, but yeah, on this rewatch, I actually really liked it. It's a really good episode. It's not going to be one that I return to all that often. I can assure you of that one. But from my rewatch, it's pretty good. I really enjoyed it. But the next episode, episode 3, the Ghost Machine. This episode, to me, is the best of all 13 episodes, and probably one of the best episodes of Torchwood in general. Because holy shit, is it really really good? The basically, Gwen, whilst they're chasing down this guy, gets a hold of this machine. She presses it, and she sees into the past. She sees a young boy that turns up in Cardiff during the Blitz, who no one's there to pick him up, and so he's basically left alone. And she feels through the ghost machine, feels what that little child felt, and that's the power of that machine. Not only does it show you the past, it makes you feel what they felt. And then later on in the episode, when Owen gets it, he presses it and witnesses a rape and murder of a young girl during the 50s. And whilst he's witnessing this through the ghost machine, as I just said, he's feeling it. He literally feels it, and this is perfect character development for Owen, because in episode 1 and even episode 2, he's shown to be the ladies' man, where he literally just goes out and sleeps with anyone he wants to. Doesn't matter if it's man or woman, he probably will sleep with them. As seen in episode 1 with the perfume. But yeah, it's really good character development, because he then has a personal vendetta. He tracks down the person who murdered her and goes and confronts him, because the person who murdered, Lizzie, I think it is Lizzie Lewis. She mentions his name, and so he tracks him down. But after that murder, he never really leaves his home because of the guilt that he feels for her death. And then, of course, he gets his comeuppance in the end when he accidentally kills himself, but it's also Gwen that kills him. She's holding the knife, and he goes in for a hug, forgetting she has the knife, and it jabs into him, and he dies. Because when they find the other half of this ghost machine, it shows the future. But yeah, this is probably my absolute favorite episode of all of Torchwood. It is so 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 good. I really really love it. The next episode, Cyberwoman. Again, not a bad episode. Obviously, the Cyberwoman design is atrocious and should not have existed. And again, this is another Chris Chibnall episode. But aside from that, it's something that we never seen the ramifications of. Because this is essentially a continuation of, Army of Ghost and Doomsday, because this is where we learned that Yonto was at the Battle of Canary Wharf. He worked in Torchwood 1, and he's the one who pulled his girlfriend out of the conversion chamber, as she was not fully converted, and so they have her on these machines and stuff, and that's what's not letting the cyber isms fully take over. And fun fact about this as well: the actor who plays the one of the Japanese men that is the first kill of this episode. He would then later go on to not only appear in Doctor Who itself, but this year he played Nintendo of Japan's president in the Tetris movie, which I thought was pretty neat. Anyway, yeah. So as well, when Gwen, Jack, and Yanto and Owen are going up on the platform, if you look into the armory, you will see the things that the Doctor and Rose held onto in Doomsday. So it's a nice and neat little Easter egg. Like I noticed a lot of these things throughout. I did used to have them written down. I think I still have them here actually. Uh, in this notebook. I'll have to see here. Um, but yeah, I really did enjoy this episode. Um, it is not as bad as people say it is, and I do actually have my notes here from when I was doing my rewatch. So let's see, is there anything else that needs mentioning that I forgot? Nope. Right, moving on to Small Worlds. This is not a good episode. It really really isn't. It's all about these fairies and their chosen one and a child predator, and it's not the greatest. It's not the greatest. It's the CG is absolutely terrible. For these fairy things, it is absolutely terrible. I did not like this episode when I first watched it, and I did not like it during this rewatch. Now we're getting to the episodes that I have not seen because, excuse me, I haven't, before my rewatch, I hadn't seen Countryside, Geeks Bearing Gifts, They Keep Killing Susie. I seen the ending to Random Shoes, and then I seen Out of Time, Captain Jack Harkness, and Edmund Days, but I didn't see Combat, which is episode 11. We're getting to that. So, Countryside. As a very first time watch, what did I think of this episode that everyone hails as one of the best Torchwood episodes? It's overrated. I'm sorry, but it is. It was built up so much to me going into this episode, like a lot of other things that has happened to me. This isn't the first time this has happened to me. It's a good episode. Don't get me wrong. It's a really good episode. But it is really overrated. Absolutely overrated. I don't get the hype behind this episode. Again, good episode. Way too overhyped. Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it, but really, really overrated. And I think, if memory serves, yeah, this is the episode where Gwen and Owen's sexual relationship starts, which I don't know how I feel about that. I still don't know how I feel about, uh, Gwen cheating on Reese with Owen. Um, I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna move on to Geeks Bearing Gifts, which again, really really bad episode. I really did not like this episode. As I first time watched, it is not good. But also, I believe John Hurt is mentioned in this episode. The War Doctor, but it's also in reference to aliens. So I guess John Hurt both exists as the Doctor and an actor in Doctor Who canon. So maybe during the Time War, the War Doctor decided to, whilst he still looked younger, appear in the Alien movie for some reason. I don't know. That's just my headcanon. Um, but yeah, this episode is a Toshika centric episode, and like I said, it's not the greatest. It really isn't. I did not like this episode. on first viewings. Her being given a necklace that allows her to read people's minds. That's how she finds out about Owen and Gwen and what people really think about her. And she's manipulated by this alien type of thing. And it's not great. It's not great. It's it's one I'm definitely never going to return to if I ever do another rewatch of Torchwood. It will be an instant skip for me. I just don't see any value in the episode, being completely honest with you. But the next episode, they keep killing Susie, is okay. I mean, they keep bringing her back. I'm sorry, but they do. This isn't the first time that they brought back Susie Costello. Um, she was appeared in the first episode of the season and took her life. Then she's brought back in this episode and ends up dying when they destroy the glove because she's sucking the life force out of Gwen. And even in the big finish audio for Torchwood, she comes back in that in a story or two. And it's just, as the episode is rightfully titled, they keep killing Susie. But to be fair, her actress is coming back to Doctor Who as the Duchess. I don't know any more of that because, actually, spoiler alert, I'm recording this in July. Yes, this isn't due until September. I'm recording this all the way in July. Why? Well, because I've already rewatched Torchwood early on this year for a live stream, and I'm not going to rewatch it again. The episodes are still fresh in my mind, so I know what to talk about, and I obviously I have my notes to go over. Anyway, the next episode, which is Random Shoes. This is an episode that as I said, I watched the ending to. I caught it briefly as an ending, the ending to as a kid, and that ending has always stood out to me. But overall, the episode's not that bad. It's a really good episode, that isn't it that follows the gang but doesn't really follow the gang, focuses on Gwen, but at the same time doesn't really focus on Gwen. Whilst Eugene, who dies, doesn't remember how he died, doesn't remember all that stuff, and so we're following him and Gwen as she's piecing together all this stuff for this to find out about this alien eye thing, and it's a really good episode. But in my notes, I have an exact time code for you to go check this out as well. At approximately 13 minutes and 34 seconds into this episode, you see Jack holding the bolt gun that Zachary Cross Flame held and used in the Satan Pit two-parter of season 2. And it exactly has one bolt, which is the same that it had in that season 2 episode. But yeah, Random Shoes, good episode, really enjoyed it. But the next episode, Out of Time, is a rewatch for me, and it is a fantastic episode. There's not a lot that I can fault on it. It gives 3 characters, stuff to do. With Gwen looking after the young 18-year-old whose name is escaping me, Owen falling in love with the pilot, and Jack and the older gentleman, whose again name is escaping me, try to get them to acclimate to 21st century, the 21st century, when they were, in a blink of an eye, going from 1953, I think it was, to 2007. Yeah, it was 2007, because it's also technically a Christmas episode, because, this episode takes place at Christmas. So, yeah, like I said, really good episode. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved, again, seeing further character development for Owen. And as well, it's just a really good episode. I don't fault it at all. It deserves to be one of the good episodes of season 1 of Torchwood. So yeah, the next episode episode 11, Combat. The only thing I have written here about this episode in my notes is that it's written by Noel Clarke. And it's a really good episode. I actually really enjoyed it. It's continuing on with Owen dealing with the loss of Diane, the pilot, and suddenly the name has just come back into my memory. But yeah, it's him dealing with that loss. Also, them learning, Torchwood learning that people are starting to round up weevils, and that there's a dead body that showed up with weevil attack marks on him, and then it turns out there's just this guy, this underground uh, of people throwing cage matches to putting people into the cage with a weevil to see how long they last. And a lot of the times, those people probably end up dead. To be fair, they more than likely do. And Owen ends up going into the cage and lasts the longest. Hence why he gets the nickname the King of the Weevils. Though I'm not sure if that's from happens in this season or if it's from next season, when Owen dies and comes back. But anyway, really, really good episode. It's the only episode that Noel Clarke has written, and it's the only praises he'll get from me at this point in time. Moving on to the last two episodes of this season, Captain Jack Harkness and End of Days, because this is essentially a two-parter. This episode is basically Jack and Tosh are investigating this old place that has rumors of ghost activity, and then they get flung back into the 40s and meet Captain Jack Harkness. And it turns out it's the Captain Jack Harkness that our Jack took his name from. He dies the following day or something like that on a routine expedition or what have you. And Jack of that time falsified the record saying that he's still alive and assumed his persona, which means when our Jack and Tosh are in the 1940s, there's potentially three Jacks running around. There's our Jack that we've been following through all of Torchwood Season 1. There's the Jack who's about to take the other Jack's identity and falsify the records. And then there's the Jack that has been living through after the parting of the ways, working for Torchwood, and keeping out of the way. Also, I think signed up to fight for World War II as well. I don't know, but yeah, there's potentially three versions of Jack around, and I'm pretty sure if all three of them met, they'd all end up fucking each other. Let's be real, they more than likely would. It's Jack. Would you be surprised if he ran into a future version of himself? They would not end up fucking. Try and prove me wrong, you can't. But yeah, it's a good episode. I really enjoyed it. As a part one leading up into End of Days, it's a good setup, and it's it ends with them. The only option to save Tosh and Jack is to open the rift and to be able to pull them out, and they do. And then that has ramifications leading into the next episode, where because they opened the rift to bring Jack and Toshiko back, it kind of messed with time. There's different points of time bleeding in. One thing I did forget to mention though, actually, about Captain Jack Harkness, is the first episode and the only episode of this season that we see a Vote Saxon sign, leading into season 3 of Doctor Who. But yeah, anyway, back to End of Days. Yeah, so we've got, Roman soldiers showing up. We have the bubonic plague. That's a big thing. And as well, when Tosh sees her mother, the spirit of her mother type thing that's used to mess around with them. The cut on the mother's forehead is the exact same cut that the empty child had on his hand. So, and that actually brings the end to my list of things that I noticed on my rewatch of Torchwood. But yeah, End of Days, it's okay. It's an okay wrap up, with Jack fighting off um, Abaddon. Took me a second to remember it. Fighting off Abaddon. We think he's dead, but it takes him a while to come back, and then it leads into the series finale of season 3 of Doctor Who. Where we hear the TARDIS land and Jack running with the hand, and that of course leads into the Doctor Who episode Utopia. So overall, I there's a lot of mixed episodes for me. I definitely would say Ghost Machine and Out of Time are the best episodes of this season. They're the most outstanding episodes, well written, well executed, and really, really good. And then there's some that are overrated, Countryside and that. And then there's some that are not good, Geek Sparing Gifts, they keep killing Susie, and so on and so forth. But as a first season, it's still finding its footing. It's still trying to, still be a part of the Doctor Who universe, but be more adult oriented. And I think it's not until season 2 where it found its footing. And yeah, so next month I will of course do my Torchwood season 2 rewatch. But that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've seen Torchwood Season 1 and what you thought of it, and what your favorite episode of the season is. And I will see you next time, because I'm literally just after planning out my September's uploads here. I will see you for a anime review. I'm going to do a rewatch of Death Note. So that is my review for the end of the month. So I'll see you all for that one.